Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton promises to build a better tomorrow. A young entrepreneur from Soweto is revolutionizing the way children in his community learn. And a countdown of Africa 54's top 5 music videos by African artists. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening, I'm Esther Gidu. This is Africa 54. Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton urged voters Thursday not to give in to the politics of fear. She vowed to unite the country and move it forward if elected in November. Clinton formally accepted the Democratic Party's nomination at its national convention in Philadelphia. VOA national correspondent Jim Malone has more.
On the final night of the Democratic National Convention, delegates were in a mood to celebrate and to make history. Chelsea Clinton, daughter of the 42nd president, introduced her mother, who hopes to become the 45th.
I'm voting for a fighter who never, ever gives up, and who believes that we can always do better when we come together and we work together.
And in a city made famous by America's founding fathers, Hillary Clinton stepped into the spotlight to make some history of her own as the first woman presidential nominee of a major political party.
And so, my friends, it is with humility, determination, and boundless confidence in America's promise that I accept your nomination for President of the United States.
In a preview of the tough campaign to come, Clinton took steady aim at the man she'll run against in November, Republican Donald Trump.
Imagine him in the Oval Office facing a real crisis. A man you can bait with a tweet is not a man we can trust with nuclear weapons.
Clinton vowed to focus on creating jobs and growing the economy, and she pledged to work for national unity if elected in November.
So let's be stronger together, my fellow Americans. Let's look to the future with courage and confidence. Let's build a better tomorrow for our beloved children and our beloved country. And when we do, America will be greater than ever. Thank you, and may God bless you and the United States of America.
Afterward, Clinton was joined on stage by her husband Bill and daughter, as well as her vice presidential running mate, Virginia Senator Tim Kaine. The focus on the Democratic convention did not keep Republican Donald Trump off the campaign trail. Trump offered himself as an agent of change at a rally in Iowa.
We can't go for another 4 years of Obama because that's basically what crooked Hillary Clinton is. We can't go for another 4 years of Obama.
With both party conventions now over, the focus is on two presidential candidates with high negative ratings from voters, says veteran analyst Gerald Seib.
It may be a very messy one, maybe an ugly one, maybe a not nice one. I mean, I think a lot of this campaign, whether people like it or not, and I don't like it, is going to be about convincing voters to vote against the other person, not for this person. And that inevitably produces a very ugly campaign.
Trump got a boost in the polls after the Republican convention in Cleveland last week. And now Clinton and the Democrats are hoping for a bump of their own as they shift into general election mode for November. Jim Malone, VOA News, at the Democratic National Convention in Philadelphia.
As elections draw near in South Africa, a wave of violence has targeted politicians and activists, most of them from the ruling African National Congress. Since late last year, at least 12 people have been killed. Several of the victims were candidates in the municipal elections scheduled for August. In June, residents of the ANC-dominated Atteridgeville Township near Pretoria protested against their own party, saying they were upset that ANC leadership appointed a mayoral candidate from another province instead of the local candidate they preferred. A new report from the Institute of Justice and Reconciliation says a quarter of South Africa's more than 26 million eligible voters are willing to resort to violence to achieve political ends. Officials in Cameroon have suspended 10 newspaper and broadcast journalists for 3 months. The country's Communications Council, NCC, accused the journalists of unprofessional conduct, but the media professionals say they were suspended because they criticized the government. The sanctions come 4 months after the NCC suspended journalists from 8 newspapers and a TV station. Last year, Reporters Without Borders said the high number of suspensions was an indication the NCC has taken a tougher line toward Cameroon's media. Part 4 of our series about the new law to protect and preserve international cultural property takes us behind the scenes as experts brief Congress on systems that need to be in place to coordinate a global effort to stop the plundering of cultural treasures. VOA's Caroline Turner has more.
The Congressional Task Force to Stop Terrorist Financing reviewed expert testimony on ways Congress could empower existing agencies and governments to enact into law systems that will stop terrorists from profiting from the sale of cultural antiquities sold on the black market. Experts say the art trade is an antiquated, unregulated business model in the digital world.
There are two realities about collectors that are inarguable. They love to show people what they've got. That's a problem if it's hot. They hate losing money. That's a problem if you demonetize illegally owned works of art.
Edsel referenced his work for the Monuments Men, where he discovered lost albums of cataloged works of art stolen by the Nazis during World War II. He advocates increased reporting and transparency by the creation of a global international registry to guarantee authenticity of the object with a clean bill of sale, a system for documentation that would make illegal works of art worthless.
100 to 200 monuments officers in the face of a war that claims 65 million lives, with no tools of technology, found and returned 5 million objects. So I'm not really interested in hearing someone tell me all the difficulties or why something can't be done today when we can read a credit card from space.
Experts say the technology exists to create a registry.
I would suggest maybe when you buy a car, there's a VIN number on the car and there's a logbook. You can't sell it without that. Why can't we do the same for objects?
Experts say only tax cheats, smugglers with stolen works, and terrorism networks would be against a system to create transparency in the art market.
Who's against transparency? If we bring that into the arena, we're not only going to be cutting down on trafficking and sources for organized crime for ISIS and other terrorist organizations, but the Internal Revenue Service is going to be getting more of the revenue that it's due, which is going to take a burden off of taxpayers that are having to carry the share of people that are trying to duck the system. It's going to return works of art to the places from which they were stolen. There's no downside to doing this. It's just a matter of the will.
I know they're marketing and selling these antiquities, in many cases on WhatsApp. The social media platform. Is there any way for us to interdict?
This is what we do on a daily basis.
Yeah.
We track these sales. We have people on the ground who actually meet with these dealers. I regularly have on my WhatsApp, I receive every day dozens of these photos.
Okay.
So the problem, however, is we receive this information. What happens to it next? That's the big hole, and I quite agree with Mr. Schindel. We have no means of then moving this information on to be acted upon in any meaningful way. It's just information that gets stacked up, and then it goes down the rabbit hole and it disappears and never to be seen again.
Experts want law enforcement to track criminals on social media.
If WhatsApp eBay, Facebook, as these platforms are being used to market the antiquities, the interdiction can come from law enforcement getting involved on those platforms.
The new law to protect and preserve international cultural property was signed into law by President Obama. It requires the establishment of a coordinating committee to preserve cultural property at risk due to political instability, armed conflict, or national disasters, and imposes import restrictions on archaeological material from Syria. Carolyn Turner, VOA News, Washington.
We want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54, and check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Coming up, a young Soweto entrepreneur channels creativity by promoting literacy. Stay with us.
From science and technology, here's what's new.
What's new? Technology startup company GeoOrbital out of Massachusetts has patented an electric bicycle wheel that can be attached to just about any make of bicycle. GeoOrbital's Michael Bertzoff.
We rearrange. Normally, you'd have the battery in one place, a motor in another place, and a wheel in a third place. And then you'd have all the electronics sprinkled all over the place. We just put it in one package.
A 500-watt motor, a lithium battery, and a suite of electronics all fit into the radial of the wheel with a tire made out of high-density foam to avoid a flat. Attach the wheel in less than a minute with no tools, and your ordinary bike is now an electric bike that can accelerate to 32 kilometers per hour in 6 seconds. Go 30 kilometers with no pedaling on one charge, or 80 kilometers with a little leg action. The wheel costs $800 with first order scheduled for delivery in February 2017. For VOA's What's New, I'm Todd Grossheim.
A 27-year-old entrepreneur from the Soweto township outside of Johannesburg, South Africa, is revolutionizing the way children in his community are reading and writing. Glad Mabele, who is in the United States after receiving a Mandela Washington Fellowship through the President Young African Leaders Initiative, is the founder of Bala Books Creations, the company which teaches children between the ages of 7 and 18 to author and publish their own memoirs, has been a hit in a country where literacy levels are alarmingly low.
His mission is simple: teach children to love books by helping them to write and publish their own memoirs. It's a vital project in South Africa, where literacy rates are low and schools are often criticized for not providing education that is up to standard. For Glad Mabele, who developed a love of the written word after penning down his grandmother's nighttime stories, developing a passion for writing and reading is one of the most important steps in a child's learning process.
And what I've come to learn is that this project of ours has sparked off so much reading. Because the book is about you see, it's a different story altogether. And what our government needs to realize is the importance of the self. Kids are aware of that. They're aware. In fact, I think kids are more aware than adults, than we are of themselves. And for them to put that in word or to be taught to document that, it allows them to tell the most magical stories, the wonder, the playfulness of life that we don't have as adults. You see it through the kids. Kids have those stories. You don't have to search for them. You just have to give them the tools to be able to put them down. And they do, and that's what we do. We just give them the tools to say, share your story. And they put their story down. And it's amazing what they come up with. It's incredible.
Mabele believes every child has a story to tell, and that with the right mentoring, many of them have the potential to develop into acclaimed writers, scientists, engineers, and doctors.
We go into schools or we go into communities, learning centers, hospitals, orphanages, or places with children with disabilities. I'm really sensitive to their pain. And these are the places that we go to, and we meet these incredible children full of love. And, sometimes we have to look for partners. We have to look for a business that can partner with us to be able to go in there and to afford these kids this opportunity to have their stories documented.
So far, the product has proved so popular that Mabele has been working day and night at his shared office in Johannesburg to keep up with the demand.
So the project is grown incredibly beyond my expectations. I mean, we are pushing out about 2,000 books, with each schools that we work with in a month. We have about thousands of books that go out, and not just that, but thousands of more kids who have been influenced or touched by these stories that are written by their friends. So we work with schools, and normally in a school we'll work with about 500 kids or 200 kids. So we do about 10 schools in a month.
Mabele's hard work has not gone unnoticed. He is currently in the United States on a Mandela Washington Fellowship that he received through President Barack Obama's Young African Leaders Initiative. He plans to use his trip abroad to form new contacts and build partnerships that will take Bala Books creations to new heights. Mabele says if he has his way, children across the United States will soon be joining their Soweto counterparts and publishing their own stories.
It's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54, our countdown of top music hits by African artists. We'll be right back.
Discussions, more joint ventures.
Truly an unprecedented time in Zimbabwe, and will ravage the future of my children, and I am not prepared.
Africa 54, here's what's trending. It's yet another novel use for 3D printing at London's trending Food Inc. restaurant. It's not just the food that is 3D printed, it is also the chairs, plates, cutlery, even this roast vase for 250 British pounds. Guests are served a 9-course menu, mostly designed on a computer. Organizers say just 7 minutes after opening the booking process, all 30 seats for the 3-night pop-up sold out. Each evening, they host just 10 dinner guests. In the coming months, Food Inc. plans to go on a world tour, visiting 20 cities, including Berlin, Dubai, Seoul, Rome, New York, and Las Vegas. Staying in the UK, a new article in the British medical journal The Lancet suggests that sitting for 8 hours a day can increase the risk of an early death by up to 60%. Researchers say that too much sitting increases the risk of problems, including diabetes and heart disease, because it can make insulin levels spike and might slow the body's metabolism. Health experts are once again urging people to sit less and exercise more. If you spend all day sitting, then you might want to schedule some exercise like lunchtime boxing. If you're not up for anything too strenuous, a brisk walk of at least an hour might do the trick. And finally, New York City is known for spectacular Broadway shows, but some of the best entertainment is often found underground. On the trains of the Big Apple subway system, dancers flip, spin, and climb around crowded cars, performing for a captive audience to earn money. But now the New York Police Department is cracking down on these acrobats. Why? The police say that by focusing on quality of life infractions like subway acrobats, they can stop more serious crimes in their tracks. And that's what's trending today. Nigerian fashion designer Sidamed Alfadi Sedenale, known as the Alfadi, is arguably the first African artist to make it into catwalks in Paris, New York, Milan, and beyond. Now the celebrity designer and UNESCO artist for peace is using his label to promote high-end fashion on the continent and peace in the world. VOA's Paul Ndiho has more.
Born in Timbuktu, Mali in 1957, Alfadi has been described as the magician of the desert. He is recognized in the fashion industry as one of the greatest names in fashion on the African continent. His creations are combined cutting-edge and traditional African styles.
Alfadi brand is like a haute couture brand. Alfadi brand is a brand who were wearing by the big big ladies and the big women in the world. Alfadi brand is like we can't talk about Saint Laurent, to talk about Dana Karan, we talk about the big design from Europe. Alfadi is like them.
Alfadi started his label in 1984. Since then, he has been featured in top fashion magazines as a pioneer designer and entrepreneur on a mission to promote high-end African fashion.
The brand is like the 35 years this brand promote African textile, promote African jewelry, promote African names, and promote African beauty. That is Alfadi brand.
In 1989, Alfadi launched the first international festival for African fashion, FIMA, in the Tegeta Desert in Niger, under the auspices of UNESCO. The festival has since become a place of exchange and dialogue between cultures from all over the world.
They can study fashion in my industry in Niger, and I'm going to build one of African big university for fashion. I'm going to do it in Niger. We're beginning to do this school, big school like University of Fashion and Arts, and that is in Niger.
The artist has also created the Alfadi Foundation, which works to improve the lives of women and children in the Sahara Desert and builds and empowers women in the region. And his team is currently working on establishing a university to teach fashion designed to address the growing demand for high-end fashion on the continent.
For me, it's very important to make and to show beauty in Africa. The beauty is not only because you have money, only you can wear it. Beauty is because you have the personality for that. You can do, you can, and African, this is my competition also for the world. African is beautiful, African is nice. We have nice and beautiful and handsome guys they can wear. We have nice models to the world. That is black people can do, and my work is also for that.
Earlier this year, UNESCO designated Alfadi as an ambassador for peace for his commitment to culture and development, promotion of tolerance, and his dedication to the ideals of the organization. Paul Ndiho, VOA News.
In today's Music Makers segment, we're bringing you a countdown of Africa 54's top 5 music videos by African artists. Now here's your host, Sanusi Diallo.
Welcome to VOA's African Hit. I'm Sanusi Diallo, your host today. Introducing our number 5 music video of the day. This is Tiwa Savage, If I Start to Talk, featuring Dr. C.
If I start to talk, the thing where Baba God is on to, we don't go in. My sister, we don't go in. If I start to talk, all the blessings Baba God they keep me, we don't go in. My brother, I don't go in.
Now we're cruising back to Nigeria with Kiss Daniel, Mama, number 4.
She walk on it for me. Do you really care? Show the bomb for me, baby. Show me in the tower. To be sincere, I will do almost anything for you. Anything for you. I want to. Yeah, cherish you. I stand for you. I won't lie to you, but I feel like for you. In the night, get up down for you. Get up down. Oh, you talk to me, oh mama. Free, oh, but long for the big guy, with you. Baby, all I seek, I find it in you.
On number 3, here's a young high life superstar from Ghana, Bisa Kdei with JWE.
What's your baby? Now I didn't number. Now who do you know? Over and go. So baby I was a day. You said you when you saw so move. Oh, did you remember when I was buzzing? Very well. I said, you with mommy, miss it, watching. Why would you live in no? That's a wood, that's a no.
Numero 2, straight from Angola, C for Pedro, African Beauty with DJ Maphorisa. Coming on number 1 spot of the week, here's the man himself who don't need an introduction, Serge Beno, Maître de ma life. Yeah.
Tu n'es pas maître de ma life. Tu n'es pas maître de ma life. Tu ne pourras pas m'empêcher d'évoluer, car c'est Dieu qui m'a donné mon doigt. Oh. Tu n'es pas maître de ma life. Tu n'es pas maître de ma life. Tu ne pourras pas m'empêcher d'évoluer, car c'est Dieu qui m'a donné mon doigt. Oh. Je me rappelle à Yo pour qu'on cite ici, c'est là-bas que j'ai grandi. Avec tous mes parents, mon corps d'enfance, chacun avait ses ambitions. Chacun avait ses ambitions. Il y en a qui voulaient devenir footballeur, médecin, menuisier, cordonnier, yo. Mais moi, j'ai choisi la musique.
Make sure to check our social media pages at VOA's African Hit. The African Musical Countdown, it's on VOA's African Hit. Once again, thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.
Good night from Washington.
Welcome to the Voice of America's Newswords. This word is one you hear in stories about business or trade.
Outsourcing.
Ships in America's ports bring in more goods from China than the United States exports to the Asian nation. A key reason is that many U.S. companies have transferred their manufacturing to China, a process called offshore outsourcing.
Outsourcing is when companies send the production of goods or services to another country. Sometimes they hire people in foreign countries to do the work.
Companies do this to save money when labor and other costs are high at home.
So, the next time you hear the word outsourcing,
your American English will be good enough to know what this newsword means.